What's happening, people? Welcome back to the Scarfey Talks Premier League podcast. In this episode, we'll be reviewing Game Week 22 in the Premier League just gone. Some big games, some delivering and some not. It was quite a dull end to the Game Week. So, got a great panel to join me to discuss Game Week 22. I've got a West Ham fan, an Arsenal fan, and a Tottenham fan, another all London panel. So, firstly, Lois, thank you very much for your time. Really appreciate you coming on. As a West Ham fan, you'll be delighted after coming on after a win. Can't say that a lot this year, but how you doing?
I am great. It's hard to not smile. Finally, I can talk on a podcast about a victory. It's great. It's great. I'm looking forward to it.
Well, as a Spurs fan, I don't know if I can say the same, but I always do enjoy these podcasts nonetheless. Thank you very much. Luca, being an Arsenal fan, will of course get into your game as well later.
Of
I mean, it turned out to
course.
be a better weekend than you thought. But how are you keeping, Luca?
I'm good, man. It's good to see you again, Harry. Yeah, thanks for having me on.
It's good to see you.
It
Absolutely
is.
that. Thank you very much for your time. And Cam, sorry to keep your record going as a Spurs fan, bring you on after we lose or draw, often loss. But thank you very much. Away from football, away from Spurs, how have you been doing?
Yeah, I'm doing good. I mean, I can't believe I'm going to have to talk again about what happened on Saturday. I don't think that was even football, genuinely. I was at the stadium, and yeah, it was absolutely toxic. But yeah, I'm doing well, thank you.
No worries. Thank you very much for your time. And yeah, good panel tonight joining me. Of course, I'm Harry Scarfe, your host. As always, if you're listening on YouTube and you're new, please subscribe. If you're listening via audio podcast platform, drop us a follow and a 5-star review. Let's get straight into it then. Reminder, Game Week 22 review only. Manchester Derby to start with. It was always going to be a tasty start to Game Week 22, and it delivered to some surprise, I think it'd be fair to say, with Michael Carrick's first game in charge as interim manager at Man United, and they got the win, and it could and should have been a lot more. Louis, kick us off with your thoughts on this game. Was this come as a surprise to you? Not only the result, but the way that Man United played?
It came as a surprise, but, it's one of those things in hindsight where it almost doesn't seem too surprising. I feel that with the new manager, there was always a chance of a shock being in place. I think if this was under Amorim, this would have been a very, very easy City win. But the way I describe this game is it was controlled by City, but dominated by United. The scoreline, it being 2-0, is very, very generous. It could have been a much uglier scoreline for the sake of goal difference and for just the headlines. But United dominated in all chances. They exploited City's weakness and they made the most of it.
They certainly did. Fully agree with you on that, Louis. Thank you very much. Luca, how do you feel about this game? Of course, being an Arsenal fan, there would have been some eyes on it. Man City dropping points again, I'm sure, would have pleased you. But how did they look in this game? Do you look at that City team and go, they just can't compete with your club, Arsenal, because they just look miles away?
I think for me, the way I look at with Man City in that performance, I was very, very, very surprised. I was watching this game, on Saturday, and literally, I sat there and thinking before the Forest game, I thought we've really got a good chance now. And Man City, for me, I have to go what Lewis said. I think Man City controlled the game, but really got totally outclassed by Manchester United, because Man United, for me, could have had 4, 5 or 6 against Manchester City, but they just weren't clinical. If United had a good squad similar to Arsenal, then I do think it could have been double figures. And I think Manchester City, for me, look, of course, there's positive signs have now signed Mark Gay, who's now number 15 at Manchester City. Is a very good signing for them. Would obviously improve the central defence and the centre halves. I think for me, bringing in Semenyo is a huge key. Manchester City are now pretty much going to Wembley in the final to face either Arsenal or Chelsea. But I think with Pep, look, you can never rule out Manchester City. Don't get me wrong; they're always going to be in around the title race, even if they're not having a good season or not. But they're missing something in that team. Like I don't know what it is. Like I feel like there's no leadership in the defense a little bit. I just feel like they're leaking goals in the last few games, and I'm very surprised by this. I really look. You still can't rule out Man City winning the title, right? because Arsenal ourselves, we might capitulate, we might bottle it again, which could likely to maybe potentially happen. But I look at Manchester United. Michael Carrick winning his first game in charge is very impressive, but I do think a lot of Man United fans are getting a little bit too carried away over one game, because I don't think he's not the answer to, of course, have the long term. And this and if he does well and get them in the top four, and then go on a cup run, then he's going to get given the job, and then that's not what Manchester United fans need. I still think. I still think Man City. I don't want to like be negative with my own team, Arsenal. Of course, I want to back Arsenal to win the league, but part of me feels like I think Man City is still going to do it. But I really hope not, right? But I hope we do it, and I hope we get it over the line and actually finally end this 22 saga. But it's going to be interesting now, because Man United have got to go to Arsenal on Sunday, and obviously we'll touch on the Arsenal game later on in this show, but it depends what Man United are going to turn up, because Man United don't play like this. This is the best Man United side performance, I've ever seen in a long time in this performance. That's the best performance I've ever seen in Manchester United. And I look at Man United, can they keep that on a consistent basis? I'm not sure, and it's going to be interesting, guys, how they're going to do against Arsenal.
Will be interesting indeed. Of course, on Thursday, Scarfey Talks Premier League podcast will be the Game Week 23 preview.
Yes,
So we'll be previewing
yes,
those games. But you're right,
yeah.
absolutely. So look ahead. Luca, thank you very much.
Thank you, man.
No, you're right. Thank you. Cam, on this game, I mean, what are your thoughts? I mean, for Manchester United, two really good goals. Brian Mbeumo, of course, coming back from AFCON, boom, really good goal. And just I want to focus on that goal in particular, because they broke from an initial Man City corner. That's a prime example of counter-attacking football, isn't it? One of the pitch to another really quickly and being clinical at the end of it as well.
Yeah, I think when Manchester City were attacking, they had to be really wary of Manchester United's counter-attacks, because I think their counter-attacking football that day was actually superb, in my opinion. Of course, the game as a whole, I think the fact that they were at home definitely helped. The fact that, they had that interim manager narrative, first game under Michael Carrick or whatnot. I think, I think a lot of people, including myself, definitely got carried away with that game Man City played at Newcastle, because although Manchester City played quite well, Semenyo and those kind of individuals, I think Newcastle were actually quite poor that game as well, which kind of played a part. But yeah, I think Manchester United fans, I think they're getting kind of carried away around, that game. I mean, albeit they kind of can, to be honest, because that performance was world class, pretty much. I don't think anyone put a foot wrong apart from Diogo Dalot, which I assume we'll get to, because, I mean, that's a red card, isn't it? That's definitely a red card, no doubt. And, the inconsistency with refs and VAR in this league is terrible. But I think, Manchester City, I mean, I could see why people were expecting Manchester United to maybe not do as well in this game. But, I mean, Michael Carrick, first game in charge, it definitely, influenced it. And, yeah, Manchester City, I mean, despite that performance against Man United, I think they're definitely still in the title race, no doubt. They've been in it every year for the past three, like, I don't even know. They've always been in it, and they've always won it. And, I think it's up to Arsenal now to, take advantage of them dropping these points and, going on to win the league. And they haven't been able to do that in recent years. So, yeah, I guess we'll see what happens there. But, yeah, I think, Man United fans can't get carried away. I know they've, done really well in that Manchester derby, and, albeit it's a big game, but, he's come in to get results, and, he's gotten the result, but he's also been able to show a great performance, Michael Carrick, with his team. But yeah, fans can't get carried away after one game, in my opinion, because the story of Manchester United is they'll, get a really big result against a big team, and then they'll go and play like, I don't know, Burnley or Wolves, and go and do awful. So yeah, they can't get carried away, in my opinion. But I think that was a very good win against Manchester City on Saturday.
It felt significant. I mean, I'd never seen Old Trafford as loud, certainly not for a long time, and as jubilant with that performance. I think it was just the blistering counterattacks, the way they scored their goals, and just how dominant they were in the game, and could have won by more as well. But Louis, Cam is right to mention the Diego Dallo incident. Of course, in the modern era, we see a lot more red cards, a lot more yellow cards for maybe things that used to be yellows are now reds. And, you get the point. That's the way the game is moving. So for you, that Diego Dallo tackle, I think you'll be in agreement with me that you've seen that type of thing given quite frequently. But this one in particular, for you, red card or not?
It's got to be a red. It has to be a red. I think the problem that we have here is we've seen ex-referees, not the current referees, but we've seen ex-referees talk about this. And I guarantee you, if the identical challenge was just against another team that wasn't Manchester City, this would be given as a straight red. We've seen referees talk about how they don't want games to be ruined because they're a derby, because they're playing against a certain team. We've seen ex-referees talk about it all the time. And they say that they want to set the tone for the game. As soon as that wasn't given a red, no other challenge that game was going to be given as a red, because in any other match against Man United, against anybody else in this league, that is a straight red card. It's unbelievable. You can look at that and go, right, that's a yellow. I've seen red cards this season be given for stuff that is nowhere near. You get a yellow card for telling the referee to give someone a card. That is equivalent to that challenge. That is what the FA rules are saying. And if we're basing it off those rules, it's a joke. It is a joke. The fact that that's not a red card. It's unbelievable to me.
Crazy. A lot of people will agree with that one. But thank you very much for your thoughts there. And on to then the next game, Sunderland and Crystal Palace. So Sunderland winning this game 2-1. Luca, I come to you firstly to focus on the home side. Sunderland before this game, a few games without a win, looked like maybe they've gone off the boil ever so slightly, but back to winning ways. And once again, proven that they are undefeatable at home. You can, go behind, which they did in this game. Palace took the lead, but Sunderland come back. Does that show the real mental resilience and
I think
character?
for me, with Sunderland, with the real mental and character they have in this team, they have been really one of the surprising teams this season. Obviously, at the start of the season, I thought they really were going to struggle. I really thought they were going to go down. I thought it'd be like Burnley, Wolves, but Sunderland for me looked like they were a team that can get Conference League. Or maybe even, I'm not sure about Europa League, but maybe like Conference League. And for a club like that, that would be really, really good. And you can see, even when we played them in November, we almost won the game, but we obviously messed up towards the end, and they got an equaliser when Gabriel and David Ryan made a very confusion together mistake. But you can see the intelligence, the energy. They've got obviously an Ajax striker that played for Ajax, Brian Brombury or something like that. His name is, and I feel like Crystal Palace ever since they're a bit inconsistent this season. Like ever since they've got problems now. Oliver Glancer, rumours that he might leave, play wants to abandon the players and all that. And I feel like that's something's not going right. I think it's a bit toxic what Oliver Glance is doing. It feels like he's been controlling them. And I can see Oliver Glancer potentially even maybe in the next coming games, I reckon. Maybe even after this next week. But I think what Crystal Palace have done, of course, obviously they lost Eze, of course, and Eze's not really getting into the Arsenal squad now, which I think he should. But I look at that and I just feel like Crystal Palace, they're really not clicking as they were at the start of the season. And I look at Glancer, I could see him going abroad. Like I don't see him going to another Premier League club. I think he's a top manager. I think he's got potential to be up there. He's got some experience now. You got Palace into the Conference League, and let's see what happens with Crystal Palace.
Indeed, it's worth noting as well that Glasner won the couple of trophies with Crystal Palace, of
Yes,
course, the FA Cup being significant, so doing a great job. Luca, thank you very
thank
much.
you, man.
Cam, coming to you after the game, we will get back to the action, but this is important. After the game, Glasner went on a bit of a rant, feeling how, saying how he doesn't feel supported. And then the report was like, yeah, what do you mean? He's like, oh, it's crystal clear, no signings, no signings. He kind of says, look, Mark Gahey leaves a day before a game, same with Eze. So it's fair to say he is angry. He's taken the Ruben Amorim and Enzo Maresca route in voicing concern. They lost their job. He hasn't. So there's a couple of questions here. I'm going to throw one at you now. What do you make of his post-match comments? Is he within reason or has he crossed the line?
Yeah, I think you can tell he isn't a happy man at Palace at all, to be honest. I mean, I think he's definitely went out of line, and in terms of like those comments straight after the game, I mean, I do kind of get why he has, in the fact that, his team's just lost another game. They can't get a win at the moment, and, their form really isn't any good. And, they've struggled against teams like us when, we haven't performed well. We went to their ground and somehow won. They didn't even score against us. And I've seen their fans as well say that that was also probably one of the worst performances of their season. And, that really does show with, some of the other performances they've had this season, because it really hasn't been good for them at the moment. But I think, the turnaround from, winning 2 trophies, the FA Cup and then the Community Shield before this season, you'd think they'd go into the season, expecting a whole lot more. But, they've really not been able to show that at the moment. But yeah, I think I'm really surprised that, he didn't get sacked straight after that. You've seen managers like Maresca and get sacked and pretty much walk away from their duties and get relieved of their duties. I'm really not surprised, or I'm really surprised, why Glasner's still in the job, because he's pretty much he's lashed out at the owners. He said that, he hasn't been getting any signings, and he hasn't, to be honest. He hasn't, apart from maybe Brennan Johnson this window, he hasn't really been properly backed. And, I guess he's not happy with what's going on upstairs. And, I do feel for him, but to come out like that in public in a press conference, similar to Conte and Maresca in a way, maybe Conte's a little bit more, much more serious. But yeah, I'm really, really surprised why the board hasn't done anything about it. But yeah, I mean, I guess those comments managers are going to do if they're not happy with what's going on inside the club. And yeah, but personally, I don't agree with it. But, I guess he's just lashed out at the owners, and yeah, that's what his reaction was.
Cam, thank you very much for that. And as we know, managers always have a lot more to say. In January, falls pressure on the board, the hierarchy, the owners to do more, to sign the players, to back them. But this January window, Louis, I mean, it's been a bit different, hasn't it? A lot of managers been very vocal. Glasner, the latest. It looks like Palace are deciding to stick with him. Do you think it's a case that Glasner wanted the sack and Palace have kind of read this and been a bit clever about it and gone, I'm not going to give you what you want here. You're trying to throw your toys out the pram and, we're not going to budge.
He perhaps may have taken the Amorim approach. I firmly believe that Amorim knew exactly what he was doing with his comments. He got the sack, and truth be told, he got a very nice paycheck along with it. I do believe that maybe Glasner, maybe he did try to deliberately say something in order to try and get the sack, but it is important to remember that this is very common of Glasner. He's done it at his previous 2 clubs. He has brought success to everywhere he has gone, but that does come with great consequences. I mean, I don't think his comments after the game were exactly well timed. Also, the fact he announced that he'd be leaving Palace, he didn't tell anyone that he was going to be doing that. That was completely off the top. But I think it is one of those situations where we do need to picture the manager in his position. He's come to a club which have had little to no success for however many years. He's come in and he's reformed this squad. He's managed to win them an FA Cup, win them a Community Shield, get them into Europe. They should be in the Europa League. They weren't due to the club's fault, which is the first thing to mention, albeit with another owner who's now left. But so that's already an annoying factor. But the fact you do that, when I'm sure when bosses sit down and they say, right, you're coming to the Premier League, this is their goal. They wouldn't have sat down with Glasner and said, your goal is to win a trophy. Maybe in however many years, but straight away, no chance. And he did that, and he wasn't backed. He wasn't backed in the slightest in any way. It's normal to see the big clubs cherry pick the small clubs for players. So West Ham lost Kudus, West Ham lost Rice. Palace lost Eze and Wharton's been linked to the move away. I mean, I can give you so many names. Anybody that's in form, they get picked off by the big clubs. But that money always gets reinvested, and I don't feel he was backed. He lost Elise, he lost Eze, he lost Gahey. I mean, I'd be annoyed. Wouldn't you be annoyed if you were in that position to constantly keep losing your best player? Once you lose one, it's annoying, but it's okay. It's only one player. 3 of the 11 players on that pitch that were major have gone. And they haven't...
And the timing. The timing is also, sorry to
timing.
interrupt, but Gay is just bad a day before a game. Gay and Eze, that's his point.
It's not...
It's bad.
It's not smart. And I think it was all right for him to want to get the sack. He's going to leave anyway. And I think Palace trying to play him at this game is only going to harm Palace. I'd be worried if a Palace, and I would sack him personally. It won't cost too much to do it. Get someone else in who's going to understand what's going on with the situation. This is not smart to keep Glasner. Not smart.
Okay, thank you very much. But Louis, sticking with you, it is another defeat for Crystal Palace, which is concerning. And Glasner, deserves his praises for what he's done at Crystal Palace, and he's been absolutely let down. They're struggling, I think, largely because to juggle Europe and the league, they haven't got the squad depth to do so. But even so, as manager, he'll be disappointed with Crystal Palace's fall off. It's funny because he said that the decision's been made for him to leave around October. That's when Palace's form took a turn for the worse. So I want to know if you think that's linked. But also, whoever the manager is, Palace have got to turn it round because, let's be honest with you, down the bottom, you've got to win. I mean, I know it's only one, but you will get onto it, but you won in this game week. Leeds are picking up more points than ever. Wolves haven't lost in the Premier League or in any competition in 2026. Burnley are picking up points here and there. They just need a win. So teams are picking up points. Could Crystal Palace get dragged into something rather uncomfortable in the final stages of the season?
I think to sit here, especially albeit the club I support, to sit here and say that Palace might be in a relegation fight come the end of the season, I would say is incredibly unlikely. But what I will say is that they may not be facing relegation, but they may be facing being down in those lower positions. And for example, the financial effect in terms of how much money you get for positions is from finishing 17th to 13th, where they currently are in the table. It's quite a big gap. You want to be finishing higher, not only for, European spots and whatnot, but also for finances. You get more money the higher you finish, and you get more money you get. So that's obviously what they'll be wanting. And I don't think, I've seen some people say that Glasner's deliberately trying to lose, which I think is ridiculous. I understand he might want to leave Palace, but I don't think he's deliberately losing. But the truth is that if they just keep going at the trajectory they're doing, they've got some big games coming up. I think in the next 4 matches, they play Nottingham Forest and Burnley. And if they're giving away these points, we suddenly might start to raise some alarm bells. But I don't think, given how little points that these lower teams often end up picking up, I don't think that conversation will come into play till about match week 30, and then we might start saying, hang on a minute, are Palace in trouble or are they not?
Preston, as you say, I agree that it's incredibly unlikely, but you just don't know what they could get dragged into. They are comfortably out of any kind of dogfight. They've got, again, at least 10 points, if not more. They've got that kind of cushion. But the point is, the game's coming up, and Cam can relate as a Spurs fan. We're in a comfortable position in terms of away from like the bottom 3, but with games coming up, where we're expected to lose probably 4 or 5 out of 7 or 8 games, that's when you were worried, are these teams still picking up points? Because all of a sudden you can quite quickly be in that, but of course can work the other way. A couple of wins and you're easily in this league inside the top 6. It's really tightly congested, which is really interesting to see. I mean, it's always been a case that a couple of results change your fortune of the season, but I don't know about you guys, it just feels like it's really close this year in the table. But next game being a London derby, Chelsea and Brentford. Chelsea winning this one 2-0. Cam, will you agree with me that the scoreline doesn't reflect the game? Credit to Chelsea for getting a result under Liam Rossini. The result is what matters most in football. But I thought Brentford on their name to have 0 goals in this game, it doesn't feel right. Hitting the woodwork a couple of times, clearances off the line. I just felt like Brentford easily, that performance deserves at least a draw.
Yeah, I'm really surprised Brentford didn't even score in this game, because I think their scoreline definitely doesn't reflect the, final result and the performance. Because, I thought before this game, I thought Brentford would actually get 3 points in this. I mean, it seemed very likely, but it looked like it was just Chelsea and Liam Rosenior's day, because, I think, under this new manager Chelsea have, I think, these results, these type of games are definitely very important to make sure they capitalise. And, I think, a game like this, they're definitely, banana skins. They're definitely, ones that you can definitely get caught out in, as they have done this season against some teams at home. But they're able to deliver. And yeah, I think it was, a result that was important for Chelsea, but I think they could have definitely had a better performance. And, I think they have to be wary when coming up against the so-called bigger teams, better teams, teams with more quality, of course. But yeah, I think, it's a difficult one, because I do feel for Brentford. I do feel that, they were quite unlucky, quite unfortunate. They couldn't get anything in that game. Albeit it's a difficult game for them. Chelsea are a good side, and they're away from home, but they've been better at home. At the GTEC, and they came to Stamford Bridge and just couldn't get anything. They performed well, but it was 2 goals at the end, 2 goals to 0, and yeah, I do feel for them, but yeah, I couldn't get anything out of this one.
I couldn't indeed. Thank you very much. Luca, asking you about this game. I mean, Chelsea under Liam Rosenior, it's been quite a good start. I mean, they did lose to you guys, but it was a good performance. And then this one, I mean, they got the win, which is most important. And kind of, if you look at the table, these teams are close together. So it felt important for Chelsea. What did you make of the game?
I think for me, look, about this whole Chelsea, the whole Enzo Maresca, of course, getting sacked does kind of make sense. And I know a lot of Chelsea fans, and I know a few Chelsea fans outside of YouTube. I'm sure everyone else does. But Liam Vecino, of course, I don't know if he's the right man for Chelsea, because when we beat them at Stamford Bridge, and it's always good to beat Chelsea at the Bridge, and either home or away. I just look at Liam Rosenior. I thought that game when they played against Arsenal, I thought Arsenal were dominant in that game. Maybe in the second half, Chelsea were kind of the better side in the last 20 minutes. Of course, they needed to respond going into this game, because I thought, okay, that they've still got a semi-final second leg at the Emirates. I can't see Arsenal losing to Chelsea. I think it's going to be an Arsenal Manchester City final. That's what I can see. I don't see Arsenal. I don't see Chelsea come to the Emirates scoring 2 at the Emirates, because Arsenal are very defensive at home, right? And I feel like Chelsea with this win, they needed to get this win. Look, do I think they'll get top 4? No, I don't think so. I really don't. I really think in the last amount of a few weeks with Enzo sacked, the results haven't done well. I know massively they've kind of a little bit improved compared to last season. I know they got Champions League football, but they finished like mid-table before and all that, and I feel like they're going back to that circle again. I think Chelsea will finish about 6th this season. I think when you've got Villa, who are in the top 4 at the moment, I know they had a terrible defeat against Everton, but they're still, Unai Emery will get them top 4. I feel Liverpool will be in the top 4. Manchester City and Arsenal will battle for the title. I don't think Chelsea are not good enough to get top 4 this season. I feel like missing Levi Colwill is a massive blow. Bad Shiley, I don't rate that guy. Fafana, I don't rate that guy. Tossin's not a bad defender. Reece James is good. Gusto is all right. I don't think Chelsea haven't got the same defence as they were like in previous years, when the old Chelsea of old, when they had Alonso, John Terry, Cavallio, Gary Cahill, all these. Chelsea's best defender is Colwill, right? And I feel Chelsea were going to go and get someone like, I remember there was rumours in just before January they were going to get Thiago Silva to the end of the season, and now he's at Porto until the end of the season, and then he'll retire at 41, 42. I just feel Chelsea don't have a leader in defence. I think the goalkeeper, Sanchez, I know he's got a bit better this season, but I still think he is a very suspect. kind of reminds you a bit like Onana a little bit, but slightly better. So that's Chelsea's weakness at the moment. And they're relying on players like Caicedo. He loves getting himself suspended. Cole Palmer as well. It's not being the same. Chelsea got problems at the back. But a good win for Chelsea.
It is. I think you're absolutely spot on. Like you're right with the goalkeeper, Sanchez, very similar traits to Onana. And again, you're just catastrophic errors. I mean, we've seen a lot. I mean, against you guys, that goal for Gyökeres, you'll be delighted for him to get that, I'm sure. But Sanchez has got to be so much better, for example. And also, you're right, leaders in defence. Reece James would be the only leader that comes to mind that maybe is a natural leader, but has taken a bit of leadership because he looked around him and gone, there is no leadership. You're right. Defence is an ongoing issue for Chelsea. They do really miss as well. Levi Kywell, I think you're absolutely spot on. Luca, thank you very much.
Yeah.
I mean, thank you. What do you think, Louis, on this game? How do you view it? I mean, Keith Andrews and Brentford still going strong, and he'll look at this and go, I'm really pleased with this performance, but it's just frustrating not to get a result. But Brentford are in the position where, of course, results matter, but yeah, they've done so well that they, their place kind of, in the top 8 is secure for now. The point is that Brentford pick up a lot of points, so they're okay and they don't get it in this scenario. But he'll be pleased with the performance, right?
I think he will be pleased with the performance, but I think some people are missing what Chelsea achieved throughout that game. It may have not been a glamorous performance, far from it. We already know that Liam Rosenior doesn't play glamorous football. He does not. And if that's what Chelsea were expecting when they hired him, they're wrong, because at Strasbourg it was the same. He doesn't play glamorous football, but he plays intelligent football and he plays very smart football. And Brentford have had 2 main outlets this season. They've had Sharda and they've had Thiago. They are the 2 outlets for Brentford this season, and Chelsea kept them both quiet. And Liam Rosenior knew if he keeps those 2 players quiet, Brentford won't score. And then it's our job to lead the attackers to do their things and score goals. Between Sharda and Thiago had 6 shots the entire game, only of which 3 were on target, and 2 of which were from range. So it says to me that the biggest problem here is getting used to the team, getting used to the assets you have. And we've seen that the defence is obviously a problem. Tosin is now injured for Chelsea. I believe that they have agreed a fee for 65 million, perhaps, or is not maybe agreed. It's spoken about Chelsea trying to sign a centre-back from the French league. I do not have his name. I do not remember it. But it is a centre-back nevertheless, and it's something they desperately need. Robert Sanchez, I don't think anything needs to be said on him. He's a liability, and simply the fact Chelsea didn't sign Mike Mignon from Milan in the summer is absolutely ludicrous. They rejected 27 million, and because they thought he would join them on a free next year, in which he's now going to sign a new contract to Milan. Very, very poor from the Chelsea board. That really could have put them in top 4 this season. Now it's more of a dogfight for it. And a really quick word on Brentford. I thought they were lackluster. I thought it makes you realise that without Thiago, if you took Thiago out of the equation and you took Sharda out of the equation, they are very, very lackluster. They do not have much going for them. They are their 2 outlets and they're relying on them. In this game, they were marked out of the game because I thought Chelsea did a really good job at that. But if we're talking about in another hypothetical scenario, what if they were both injured? If they were both injured, I don't think Brentford provide anything. They might have had a good performance on paper, but I think when you look into it, it was strategically planned by Chelsea. And they'll take confidence in it, Brentford. I mean, they're on a ridiculous good run of form. I think before this game, they had been about 7 unbeaten or something. They've got Nottingham Forest next. It's a game where Forest have seemed, not the best. And they're at home at the G-Tech. So I suspect Brentford will be back next week, but this was just an off week. Nothing to worry about.
Do you not think they played well, though? I mean, I only saw the highlights, to be fair, but they just created so many opportunities, and whether it be stats or the analysis or what pundits are saying, it felt like that Brentford dominated. Maybe they didn't have that cutting edge, but it felt like the scoreline didn't reflect the game. Chelsea were good, don't get me wrong, but I thought that Brentford looked competitive. I think you make a point that you're right with Sharda and Thiago they rely on, but they seem to look really dangerous in this game.
They might have played well and they might have had chances, but at the end of the day, they didn't go in the net. And if your two biggest outlets are taken out the game and you play like this consistently, it's not a good look. And I think there are many other teams this week that had similar to Brentford, where they played well, had loads of chances, but didn't convert. At the end of the day, it's cost them points in this unexpected European fight that they've now found themselves in. But even though we may have all tipped them, some people tipped them to go down at the beginning of the season, they are now in a European fight and they have to perform like though they're in a European fight. So it's a good performance. That's why I said they won't really take it. They just take it on the chin and move on. There's nothing to really be concerned about, but it's just an unfortunate one for Brentford.
Okay, Louis, thank you very much for that one. That's fair enough. Liverpool won, Burnley won the next game that we will review. Cam, starting with you, I mean, Liverpool again dropping points. It looks like, okay, maybe they turned a corner. They got the season back on track finally, but no, in a game like this, they failed to win. I mean, just on paper, this looks like a big missed opportunity for Liverpool to capitalise on the likes of Villa, who we get onto, that slipped up, and teams ahead of them slipping up, and also behind, not reaching maximum points in the likes of Brentford. So missed opportunity for Arne Slot and Liverpool.
Yeah, I'm honestly not too sure how they're still fourth in the league table because there's 4 league draws on the bounce now, and Burnley's only shot on target ended up going in the back of the net, which for me is just unacceptable because, when Liverpool have games like this where they're getting 28 shots in a game, I mean, how's there only 1 going in the back of the net? Because, I mean, they just seem to drop points almost every game now, and it seems like that's just the norm for them right now because, yeah, I just don't think they're good enough. And, as I say, I don't know how they're fourth in the league table because, I mean, I do understand the point gap is, very, very tight in between the teams, as you said, Harry. But, I mean, Burnley at home, Liverpool, they should be winning that with ease. With some of the games I've had recently with Fulham away, I mean, you'd expect them to win that as well. I mean, I just don't think they've been up to their best this season. I mean, I know they won the league last season. They'd probably expected much more from this season. And albeit they're fourth, I mean, I just don't think their performances have been, up to standard and up to Liverpool standard for a club like them. I think they should be doing much better and aim to do much better. They are fourth in the table right now, I mean, of course I understand that. They're obviously doing barely. I mean, when you look at that when you look at it from that picture, you kind of think, okay, they're not doing too bad. But, I think their performances have been really inconsistent. I mean, they go from beating Barnsley, which even then they were really, I think they were, not amazing in. I think it was just the fact that the Premier League quality came through against a League One side or an EFL side. But I think for Burnley, I think it's a great result for them at Anfield because, albeit a lot of teams, a lot of the low teams will be getting results at Anfield or, showing good signs at Anfield. I think, for Liverpool, I think Anfield should be, just like Sunderland this season, the Stadium of Light's been absolutely amazing for them. I think, I think teams are just getting too many points at Anfield. I mean, Liverpool are dropping too many points at home and away, especially at home, though. I think they've been really poor because teams are just rocking up there and, high quality or not, they're just going there and getting a result, a draw or a win. And, when it's Burnley's only shot on target, you've just got to think, what are Liverpool doing?
You're
yeah,
right,
I think,
Cam, yeah.
Yeah, a great result for Burnley, though, in my opinion. I think with where they are in the table, I think, they definitely need a result like that. It wasn't 3 points, but, against a team like Liverpool, even though they haven't been amazing this season for, the circumstances, I think it's definitely a great result for Burnley. Probably need to be picking up more results like that. Definitely, ideally 3 points. But, yeah, great result for Burnley, but Liverpool just really poor.
Thank you, Cam. And to sum up and just to give evidence that it was a real smash and grab from Scott Parker's Burnley. So shots, Liverpool had 28 shots and 7 on target. Burnley had 6 shots and 1 on target. Possession, Burnley just had 27% of the ball to Liverpool's 73, and Burnley completed less than a third of the total passes of Liverpool as well. And if corners, Burnley had 1 to Liverpool's 9. It's just pass accuracy as well is like, let's have a look here, 17% lower. So whatever way you look at it for Burnley, it's a result maybe that they didn't think they'd get, and some would say didn't deserve. But Luca, I come to you. For Burnley, a significant result. They need to start winning games if they want to stay up. I think they take this point, right? You're on mute, my friend. Luca, we can't hear you because you're on mute. If you unmute yourself, then we can hear you.
Oh, sorry, my bad. I
You're
apologise.
right. You're good.
But no, no. The thing is, Harry, I 100% agree with you. I think it's a great point for Burnley because if you look at the second half, Kanate makes that horrible mistake. Like literally, there was one moment in the second half. Burnley, well, I can't remember the players, yeah, but Burnley crossed the ball, yeah, and Kanate was literally switched off and nearly put it in his own net, yeah. Burnley should have won that game, and Liverpool missing a penalty. Dominic Slopperslide goes and misses and hits the crossbar. Very unexpected to miss a penalty like that, and it's the same problems again for Liverpool. Like, I understand when we played Liverpool, everyone backed Arsenal to beat Liverpool 3-1, 2-1. Even I said it in my channel. I said it on my watch along and match reaction when we played Liverpool. I backed to beat Liverpool, and we were poor. Yeah, Liverpool came to the Emirates to park the bus. Arnie Slot set out a plan, yeah, and they had one chance in that game. The game was a dead rubber game. Yeah, it was not an entertaining game, but Liverpool controlled the game, and Sloppersley and Frimpong were the two Liverpool's best players in that game. Yeah, and Liverpool's best player this season is Ekitike and Szoboszlai. They're the only two players that are carrying Liverpool still for those Champions League spots, yeah. I do think Liverpool will get into the top 4 this season because they'll have Salah back. Salah's actually been quite decent in AFCON, yeah, right? And I know Salah's not had a good season. His career's now coming towards the end. Don't get me wrong, I still rate Salah, yeah. Either he's having a bad season or maybe time is touching on him because of the age. But Arnie Slot, we've seen this before. It's Jurgen Klopp, yeah. When he won Liverpool the league title, yeah, right, in COVID, and then left, Arnie Slot came in. No one expected Slot to win the league. When Liverpool bought all these players in the summer, I thought Liverpool were going to big up to John, you're good, yeah? But I thought Liverpool were going to easy roll away with the league, but it's just the same problems. They don't have a centre back, right? They didn't go into the transfer window and buy a centre back, right? They let Mark Gay and FSG owners go to Manchester City. It hurts for me as an Arsenal supporter seeing Man City strengthening a real good England's #1 centre back defender. Probably is going to be alongside.
You'll be
in
all
the
right
summer.
though. You'll be all right after the money you spent in the summer. I think that surely you'll have enough to get the job done. I know you're not Arteta's biggest fan, but Arsenal
No.
should have enough, shouldn't they, on paper to get over the line and probably win more than one trophy, if we're being honest.
Well, I hope so, and because the trouble is, it should be time for now for Arsenal, and we are the favourites. But the thing is, with Liverpool, yeah, I do think they will get into the top 4 because of the experience they have. The only injury they're really missing is Isak. Salah's obviously will start the next game. Liverpool have got a tough game against Bournemouth away, and I know Bournemouth have not been the same since Semenyo's left. That just goes to show that Bournemouth are a one-man team. I can't see Liverpool getting 3 points against Bournemouth. I really can't see it, especially at the Vitality Stadium. That has got potentially a Bournemouth victory in that game, right? Or maybe a potential draw in that game. The way Liverpool needs to fix things up, yeah, right? They haven't got a number 6. They haven't replaced Fabinho, yeah. Gravenberch needs someone alongside with him. McAllister's great. Don't get me wrong. I think he's a quality footballer, but it's not been the same player this season, right? I rate McAllister, yeah. I think he's a quality footballer, yeah. He's better than Odegaard, yeah. But they need a Salah replacement. Van Dijk's getting old. They're a mess. Like, I do think Liverpool will come back very strong in the future. maybe next season or something like that. It could be like, this kind of reminds me a bit like Man City of last season. When Man City went one winning like 12, it kind of reminds you a bit like that. And I know Man City have improved a bit this season, have been obviously challenging Arsenal. I do think Liverpool are having a bit of a transition season. It happens to teams when teams are champions. Like, if we win the league this season, it might happen to us next season. Last season, we weren't really in a title race. We had 14 draws. So it might happen to us next season if Arsenal do win the Premier League this season. It happens in football.
It does. It can happen. So, Luca, thank you very much for your
Yeah,
passion and
no
honesty
worries,
there.
man. No
Thank
worries.
you. Louis, on a positive note, though, for Liverpool, which is, of course, hard to find when you draw to Burnley at home with no disrespect, because Burnley have been competitive this year. We spoke about it, how Burnley done better than people give them credit for, and you're right. But on Liverpool, another goal for Florian Wirtz seems to have taken off of late, which will please Liverpool supporters.
Yeah, I mean, personally for me, I've never really doubted Wirtz as someone who used to watch the Bundesliga regularly when Wirtz was there. He's amazing. He's a great player, and he always has been for Liverpool. I mean, he's been in a rotated position. 1 minute he's playing a more defensive role, next minute it's more attacking. He's still getting used to the league as well. He's got that talent. He's been able to show it numerous times. Sometimes people just need one goal, one assist, the headlines go away, and no one's really talking about him in the media anymore. Before, the newspapers were labelling him as a flop. He'll be a great player for Liverpool, but I just think at the current system that Liverpool have got him in, maybe now he's starting to adapt to it slightly, but beforehand, it's a struggle. And you need to, when you buy a player and have a player of Wirtz's quality, you need to play to his strengths. And I don't think Liverpool are getting the most out of him that they potentially could.
That's a good point. That's a really good point, actually. A lot of people say that, similar to Xavi Simons at Tottenham. How can you get the best out of him? Perfect segue then to Tottenham and West Ham, which ended 2-1 to West Ham. Starting with the winning side, Louis first. That's the first time that you'll be able to go first. When I say that, go into the winning team. I'm only joking. But what did you honestly think of this game? Because I'll give you my thoughts briefly. I thought you were very good in this game. Not perfect, not the finished article, but that is no surprise. I thought you come here with a claim plan, come here with a fight that maybe it started off a bit like, what West Ham doing here, they don't quite look stable, but you grew into that game in the first half. And I think, were deserving of the win. So what are your thoughts overall? Of course, the result hugely significant in so many ways.
Massively. I think for me, one of the biggest points was actually before the game even started, was Nuno's decision to finally go with two strikers up top. It is something that hasn't been done at West Ham in probably over 5 years, and it's not been something that we've done under Nuno. Against QPR, we saw a very brief spell of it, and people thought it was just for the cup. But he did it in a Premier League game, which shocked a lot of people. We didn't play a number 10. We didn't actually have a number 10. We played a sort of a 4-2-4 or 4-4-2 in transition. It was a very, very interesting tactic, but one that was very smartly put together. I thought that first half is one of those where we could have been 3-0 up. We had the ball in the net 3 times, 2 of which were obviously rightly, disallowed. The foul on Van der Ven, which was obviously a foul, and obviously Bowen's offside, which was blatantly offside. But we had many chances. Castellanos at the back post had a very good chance. He should have converted with a header. And also, we just had so many chances. And, on another game, this could have cost us. If we had drawn that game and Callum Wilson not scored that winner, we would have been sat here complaining the fact we didn't get 3 points, because we seriously should have buried that game in the first half. But overall, it was brilliant to see. Somerville has sort of found his own. He's brought that confidence from QPR, which I spoke about on the podcast. Hopefully, I was hoping he would do so, and he has. And he's seeming to gel with Castellanos and Pablo. Pablo's looking decent. Not amazing, of course, but it's going to take a while, especially in a broken West Ham team. He's sort of finding his own way through it all, which is good, very good. We did suffer an unexpected injury with Songatu Magaza before the game. Fortunately, it seems to be a short-term injury. Souček stepped in, brilliant as per, very underutilised asset we have at West Ham, And a game against Spurs was perfect for him. Nuno saw your side and noted perfectly what to do. A slower opposition side of a Spurs team that doesn't seem to utilise its pace or doesn't have pace at the moment given your injuries. Souček is not quick, but he has a very good brain as a footballer, which is exactly why he played so well. Made 17 defensive contributions across the game.
That's a lot of goal content. Yeah, that's an awful lot. That's really impressive. And for West Ham, it was a huge win. But Louis, I've got to ask you about Callum Wilson, because we spoke on here, didn't we, about his contract's going to be ripped out if it hasn't already. We said that many times, and hoping, well, not hoping, but thinking that once the episode was done, that his contract would be ripped out and West Ham would announce it. But no, he played this game and he loves the goal against Tottenham. It's important to note. But he was on the pitch for about 112 seconds and gets that winning goal. I mean, from a Tottenham point of view, an absolute mess. But for West Ham, I'm sure jubilation and probably the least that you deserved. So you happy for Callum Wilson? And do you think the club will change their mind? There's reports that they will. Do you now want to keep him?
They're no longer reports, Harry. They are confirmed. Callum Wilson will stay at West Ham for the remainder of the season. I don't really know. I believe this Callum Wilson stuff was almost a double bluff, because not too long ago he did a very big interview. He doesn't like to do interviews. He did an exclusive interview with, I believe, the Mail. I could be wrong. And he spoke about how he wants to become one of the 26 Premier League footballers to score 100 goals, in the Premier League. There's not many strikers who've done it, and he's very close. He's now got 93 goals after his goal against Spurs. But it's the game time that he wants. It's game time that he wants. And with Pablo and Tati Castellanos coming in, two strikers, your game time looks bleak. I think he didn't like the sound of that. Nuno he's not a Nuno type of striker. And I think probably both he and Nuno sat down and said, look, maybe if you want more game time, you might be better off to look elsewhere. But I couldn't even count how many West Ham fans after the game pleading West Ham in comments to keep Wilson. And it was announced this morning, or not this morning, maybe yesterday morning. I can't exactly remember. Wilson would stay, and that's not changing anymore. And he will stay under Nuno, which is great for us because it now means we have three strikers. And the last time West Ham had three strikers in a season, three senior strikers, was 2018. So that puts it into perspective how short we've been for many, many years. I am very happy he's staying. He's our second top goal scorer at the club. He's a great player, and he's that character we need in the dressing room at the minute to get us out of a situation which looks a lot better than it was. But we do need to... I keep using this analogy, which people do call silly, because I hear people talking about form of other clubs and, could West Ham catch Palace or something of a conversation. The truth is, if the season were to end tomorrow, West Ham would be relegated, which is obvious, but it's the fact, it's more of a message that we still need to pick up points. We are still not there yet. We are still 5 points away from safety. And that loss against Nottingham Forest goes to show that if we'd won that game, we'd be above them and we'd be out in the relegation zone. That game was so painful to us. But we have to take it as a run of good form. We played well against Forest. We played well against QPR. Well, we didn't play well, but we got a win. And we played well against Spurs for the majority of the game. Maybe not so much the second half, which was slightly concerning. But again, we defended well. I mean, I think I saw Todibo had 11 defensive contributions. Mavropanos had 17. Souček had 17. I don't even want to know how many defensive contributions we had in total come the end of the game, because we just defended and got lucky.
Appreciate your honesty. Thank you very much, Louis, with that one. Thank you. I think you make some good points there. And as honest as always that you were good in the first half, but second half slightly concerning. But result is what matters in the end. Cam, as a Spurs fan, there's a lot I'm sure that I can ask you about. So to start with, sum up your feeling post-match. I mean, I get the feeling it's one of those that changes the whole narrative for Thomas Frank, under pressure anyway, but any last few supporters he had, myself included, would have been lost after this. It's the performance, it's the substitutions, it is the result. How do you feel? We'll get on to Frank, but how do you feel about this game as a whole? Do you think Tottenham deserved anything from it, or was it another poor performance?
Well, Frank actually said in his press conference afterwards that it could have well been 2-1 odds. But, I mean, in my opinion, I think we definitely had some good chances. But, I mean, to win the game, I think our defensive performance as well was just lackluster. I mean, fair play to West Ham for coming over here and winning, but I feel like we're the team that just like gifts teams 3 points, because you have Bournemouth who are winless in a chunk of games and they go and win, and now West Ham, and now we've got Burnley next week,
And
winless
same
in
with players as
13.
well. Semenya, we give him his last goal in the dying embers. Callum
Yeah.
Wilson hasn't scored for ages. We've done it last season with Michael Keane. Hasn't scored
Well,
for Everton
I
for like
remember
5
I
years.
remember the game against Nottingham Forest where Hudson-Odoi got 2 goals and assist, or
Yeah,
2 assists and
Sangare.
a goal. Since then, Hudson-Odoi has not gotten a single goal contribution in any other game. It just shows. I mean, the season's been awful. I think you can officially say that the season is a write-off. But yeah, it's fair to say as well, because I mean, just every team we play, we just make them look so good. I mean, I know West Ham, they were amazing. I mean, of course they weren't perfect, but not many teams are. But I think defensively they were superb. I mean, we had a fair few chances. I mean, yeah, you can definitely say that. But I think West Ham done really well to, limit us, even if we weren't really amazing. But yeah, I was at the stadium, and I think the toxicity in that stadium was ridiculous, because that last goal went in, and I think when the full-time whistle went as well, I think the boos and the lack of support was there to see. I think after that performance, I think I can say, as much as I like to be positive, I think Frank's lost once again another supporter, and I assume many after that game. I think if you ask most of the fan base if they're Frank in or Frank out, I think it'd definitely be Frank out, no doubt. But yeah, I think most fans as well. I mean, I was talking to fans before the game. I was talking to someone on the tube as well, and most of them thought that West Ham, at the most, I think at least some of them said they would get a draw out of this, and they've went and gone and get 3 points. I think with the performances we've put in this season, I mean, with how bad we've been, I don't think many Tottenham fans, I'll say, really expected West Ham to get 3 points. So I think, some rival fans have watched us this season and, probably thought West Ham were in for a chance in this game. And yeah, they're right. Fair enough. I mean, it really does show how bad we've been this season and how bad the season's been as a whole. I think, whilst Frank, I think a lot of blame's going to be on him. I think the ownership has definitely, hung him out to dry. There's no doubt that Frank isn't 100% the problem, because I think whilst he's part of the problem, I think, the ownership have really, really been harsh on him. And, I think, as you know, Harry, we've got multiple issues within our squad and within the club as a whole, players fighting fans and the home and away fans simply not happy at all. I think, though, I mean, Krasenko Somerville, I think he was amazing in that game against us. But, I think almost any player is gonna, or any winger, if you like, is gonna look good when up against Pedro Porro, because whilst I think he's a good player, he got an assist for our goal. I think defensively he is not up to that standard at all. I think that's definitely been shown many times this season, especially last season. But yeah, I will like to point out some of it. I think he was really good in that game, and he was good against QPR as well, albeit they're a championship side. But I think if he can definitely keep up this form, he scored against QPR, scored against us. I think if he can go on that goal scoring run now, I mean, I know it's definitely going to be a mountain to climb for West Ham if you like to stay up in this league, because I think, as Louis was saying in the past few podcasts, not any other team in the relegation zone is at Christmas has been able to stay back up. And yeah, it's definitely going to be difficult for them, but I think it could definitely Jimmy Somerville, fair enough. But yeah, I think it's going to be a mountain to climb, but I think it's definitely possible. But as Louis said, if the season ended tomorrow, West Ham would be down. But I think it's a big 3 points for them. I think they would have definitely taken a point going into this game, but they've gone and gotten 3, and yeah, a big 3 points for them, especially to close the gap on Nottingham Forest. I mean, Forest, they got, I would argue, a big point against Arsenal. We'll get to that later. But yeah, I think a great win for West Ham, but for us, we just can't seem to get anything at the moment. And yeah, I think that's 4 or 5 losses on the bounce. Yeah, not good enough in my opinion.
Not good enough at all. And that's the thing. We're halfway through a transfer window. We're linked with nobody. I just find that incredibly concerning.
I do feel like the whole manager situation at the club's kind of almost hiding the fact that, you know, Frank hasn't really been backed in this window like entirely because, you know, you could say, oh, we've signed Conor Gallagher, we're about to sign a new Brazilian left back from, you know, who from Santos, who's 19 years old, you know, probably not, you know, the most influential player coming into the Premier League. He's going to need time to settle in. I don't even know when we're going to announce him. I thought it was all done. I knew he was at the stadium on Saturday, but I thought it would have been announced by now. But I guess we'll, you know, I guess we'll find out. But yeah, I think with what we need in this window, I mean, you could say we need everything. You could definitely say that. I think, you know, there's not many teams that need to strengthen, in my opinion, as many areas as we do. Because, I mean, you look at every position in this squad and you think, yeah, we could definitely reinforce that. I think, you know, many teams could also look at their squad and say that, but you know, I don't think it goes for almost every position. You could look at a goalkeeper. You know, Vicario's not been absolutely amazing, has he? For that second goal, he was lackluster. He was so poor, not just for that goal, but for the majority of that game, for the majority of the season. I think, you know, right back Horror, I think whilst he's good attackingly, I think, you know, he definitely has his, you know, weaknesses, definitely defensively. I think for a left back, Jed Spence has been, you know, I'm not going to go through every position, but I think you know what I'm trying to talk about. You know, Jed Spence being forced in that area
Yeah,
as a right back. You know what I'm trying to say. But
I do.
yeah, I think many areas that we definitely need to reinforce in these owners. But yeah, I think the whole, you know, narrative of Daniel Levy leaving in the summer and, you know, whilst I think we definitely made some good signings in the summer, I think, you know, with Kudus now out injured, why do you go and then sell Brennan Johnson? Because then we've got, you know, no natural right hand side players apart
One
from
winger. One
Odobert.
winger is fit
Yeah,
in Wilson
one winger.
Odobert. And we left Tell out the Champions League squad to replace him with a half-fit Solanke who's in no form and he's hardly fit. Tell's in form and he
I
is
mean,
fit.
if
And
Dominic
he's left out.
Solanke that now goes and gets injured or maybe tonight or whenever, to be fair, you know, what's the whole point in that? I mean,
But the
you know,
substitution was booed. In this game against West Ham, Tell was come off. I
yeah.
mean, you both would have seen it. You come off, Solanke come on. It was booed by, and not by just a few, by loads of people in the stadium, right? And that's not for the first time, and it will happen again. And then to again follow through on that yesterday with the Champions League squad and saying, Tell no bar, you're at the Champions League squad. Solanke's now back fit. That's not reading the room. I mean, he's in cuckoo land and he's comes out training, smiling, goes, everyone all right? You know, I'm having a great time. Sun's shining and, you know, football, we're playing football. The sun wasn't shining.
The
It
sun was
certainly
not
isn't
even
shining.
shining. It
It
was not
wasn't.
even
And
shining.
it looked awful. And it's not even shining at all for Thomas
I,
Frank.
I, I saw a tweet from someone, I can't recall who it was, but the whole idea of Thomas Frank misprofiling our players, like saying Bergwell's like with Wilson Odobert, he's definitely not. It was a tweet about
And
Frank like
mistreating of Tell.
yeah, Thomas Frank like misprofiling the weather or something. I mean, the sun was not shining. It definitely wasn't. And he's gotten his own players' positions wrong, and he's gotten the weather forecast wrong as well. I mean, it's just going from bad to worse, isn't it?
Not good at all. And I think he's in cuckoo land saying that, you know, he feels really positive right now and just a couple of wins away and things aren't, you know, bad at all. But Nuno has won the same number of Premier League matches at the Tottenham Hotspur Stadium in the last 9 months as Spurs had with 2. Horrific. That is horrific. Spurs winning just 2 home games since April, the start of April as well. I mean, that's shocking because he played a lot of games at home, being in different competitions. So incredibly disappointing to read that stat. Luca, coming to you for the next game to speed this along. Leeds beating Fulham 1-0 at Ellen Road. It was a late goal by Leeds. I mean, they look really good, don't they? And Daniel Farker, definitely his position is secure. And would you say Leeds are in a position now where they're probably going to be playing Premier League football if they, you know, keep this steady form?
I think for me, like, you have a look at Leeds towards the end of 2025, going into 2026. Leeds have done really well with recruitment wise. Of course, obviously they've got Dominic Calvert-Lewin, and look at Dominic Calvert-Lewin. People used to say to him that, oh, he's so unfit, he ain't gonna last the season. He's barely got injured at Leeds, and this really surprises me. And Look, I'm not saying Dominic Calvert-Lewin's world class or anything like that. He never will be. He's an average striker. But do people look at it right as Dominic Calvert-Lewin? Are people now starting to see the real Dominic Calvert-Lewin, what people should have seen in the beginning with all these injuries and that? And I look at Leeds beating Chelsea, right? Drawing to Manchester United, should have drawn at the Etihad, but City scored in the last minute. Phil Foden, 91st minute, and go and win the game 3-2. We've got Leeds after Manchester United, right? At Leeds at Ellen Road will be a tough game. Leeds are turning up against the big boys, right? I think they'll 100% stay up this season. I think they will, and by the way, Manchester City are losing in the Champions League. By the way, 1-0 at the moment, but to Bodo Glimt, the team who Tottenham beat in the semi-finals. But I think for me, Leeds are going to be very good this season. And what I like about them this season, I had my doubts where they were going to go, where were maybe going to go down. But even Sunderland was my option as well, or even maybe Burnley, Wolves, or anything like that. But I feel like Leeds, they look really organised. They've got something about them, the style. Hostile stadium, of course. You went to Ellen Road, of course, last year, of course, for the Content Awards, and it's a good stadium. It's a real good stadium and all that. And for Fulham, Fulham are in talks with Oscar Bob for 35 million. That is a very good signing for Fulham. And he's a very talented player. Hasn't really worked out at Manchester City. I think obviously if Fulham can get the talent, what he can build and what he can be, I think his value will be worth. So overall, I think it's a good win for Leeds.
Okay, Luca, thank you very much. Appreciate
Yeah.
that.
Yeah.
Louis, coming to you, both these teams in Leeds and Fulham have been on decent form in the last kind of 6 games. You know, Leeds starting off really strong where Fulham struggled, and Fulham now coming back and looking competitive and sorted out a few little issues at the back, individual errors and fine margins. So do you look at it and go, 2 good competitive teams, but Leeds with that late goal in the end? I mean, Fulham just seem to concede late goals.
They do. They do concede these late goals. And I've been saying this for weeks and weeks and weeks. Leeds have got one of the most fights about them in the entire Premier League. Every single game, they've got that fight. And if we look at, how they've been across the season, constantly, they're always fighting in these games. Against City, 2-0 down, bang, 2-2. They really, really they're always going for it. And I really have admired that about Leeds. They can dig deep in all the moments, no matter what it is about. And they can go and get chances. Against Fulham, they had 4 big chances. Fulham had none. They kept Fulham quiet. And they deservedly won. I mean, I don't think Fulham played bad. Exactly, but they were far from what they have been in these previous set of games. And Leeds have just proved they've got more fight. They're more hungry than everyone else around them.
Thank you very much. Just a live update, of course, been a live podcast. Bodo Glimt are 2-0 up against Man City. City have absolutely imploded, even though the January window. I mean, Luca's face is a pure delight, knowing that, of course, this will affect their confidence in the Premier League. Luca's sticking with you. Speaking of the devil, Arsenal got a draw against Forest. I look at this, right? I mean, you again can talk about this more than me, but I look at this and go, Arsenal drop points, boom, opportunity for others. And then, of course, Villa losing. Again, we'll get onto just a second. And also Man City losing. So Arsenal won out this weekend. They've extended the advantage by 1 point, even though you'll be in agreement with me, I'm sure, that this isn't the result that you wanted.
I think for me, like I, of course, think about this game against Nottingham Forest. I was very disappointed, but in a way, which actually kind of helped us. Aston Villa losing, which is probably maybe not a bad result this weekend. At the time before Villa were playing, I backed Villa to win very comfortably, maybe 3-0, 2-0. Everyone was backing Everton. Oh, Everton got no chance, they're going to lose. But Everton surprisingly shocked people and went to Villa Park and defended and got a goal. And that's Everton's best away performance of the season against Villa. And Villa were absolutely terrible. And don't get me wrong, getting to the Arsenal game was, of course, my only criticise I will say about the game, right, is the lineup. We've got Inter Milan tonight in the Champions League, yeah, at 8 p.m. at San Siro, and we only need a point to qualify. And I'm sure my only query is why did Mikel Arteta start people like Noni Madueke, Gyökeres, and Martinelli? Why are you starting two wingers that are pacey, right? Rely on pace, where you should go with a strong team. Arsenal had the opportunity. This has happened twice now, right? And this is my only slight worry. And we're so lucky that Manchester City are pretty much lost that game to Manchester United because it could have been worse, yeah. The only criticism I will say in that game, I thought the performance was very poor, right? It was not our day to bury chances in that game. I thought the lineup, he got it wrong, in my opinion. I really think Arteta should have started with Trossard, Saka. Saka was the only player that actually made a real good effective into the game when he come on, especially when he had that chance and all that. And we had chances, even Gyökeres, for me. I don't really know what to say about Gyökeres. Don't get me wrong, he's been average this season. Mikel Arteta will not change the strengths to Gyökeres and change the way he wants to play. Gyökeres is a player where he kind of relies on service, yeah. And this is why you've got to throw someone like an Ariba Eze. I don't get it with this manager, yeah. Why does he not start Ariba Eze, right? He's probably the only guy that can feed the ball to Gyökeres, right? Odegaard, for me, he's poor. I'm sorry, but I'd get rid of him, mate, because I know a lot of people might disagree with me thinking, what are you talking about, yeah? But he's not been the same player since he come back last season when we lost to Inter Milan in the Champions League group stage, yeah? And we were missing him last season. We were crying out whether Odegaard was going to become the same player, but he's not been the same player. He's so inconsistent this season. He's not captain material. And you see Declan Rice's comments, yeah? At first, I thought it was fake, yeah? But Declan Rice come out and actually said he was talking about his own performance, not and obviously not about the Arsenal, but his own performance. And I don't blame him. We were poor. I think we should have had a penalty. I don't know if you guys saw the incident with the whole Jesus thing. I think that was definitely 100% a penalty, right? I think that should have been awarded.
Do you mean the Ola Aina handball, or are you talking about something different?
Yes, the two handball ones.
Yeah, you think that is?
I think for me, right, that should have been a penalty in my opinion, because how did VAR not give that, and we could have won the game 1-0? And this isn't the Forest of last season, yeah. And if any Forest fans are listening to this podcast, yeah, right, big shout out to you lot, yeah. You guys obviously put us on had a better performance than us, and I say a draw was a fair result, yeah, but we never really took our chances. How could we go from beating Chelsea at Stamford Bridge, then draw to Forest? When Man City dropped points against Brighton at the Etihad, which really surprised me at the time, we go and draw to Liverpool. And everyone thought Arsenal were going to beat Liverpool. This has happened twice, 2-0 draws. And then we get a lifeline that Villa have lost. We have a big game this weekend, right? And I want to get your thoughts on this as well. We take on Manchester United at the Emirates. Would you say Arsenal are good enough to beat Man United at the Emirates?
Well, yes, I think Arsenal are going to go on and storm the title and probably win more than the title. So I think they're good enough to beat anyone. The best team right now, probably the best in Europe for sure right now. So yeah, I think you have it. Of course, it'd be difficult. United changing manager, a new manager bounce, and Carrick's, I think, are more
But who do you
sensible.
think will win that game? Like, obviously, you're a Tottenham
You.
fan and all that stuff.
I think you'll win it.
You think we'll beat Man United?
Yeah, no doubt.
Yeah, I think for
To be
me,
fair,
the United
I'd
game,
expect Arsenal to win, but I wouldn't
Be
be surprised
competitive.
if it's kind of a banana skin type game where maybe
Yeah.
you get a draw. Or it feels like that type game where you could definitely drop points, but I would
Yes.
definitely bet you to win it. Yeah.
I think for me, we'll win the game, but I really think it's going to be a real tough game. A lot of people think we're going to spank United, but I don't think we will. I think we'll nick it 2-1 Arsenal at the Emirates because we're at the Emirates. But at the same time, I would not be surprised if this game ends in a draw because I feel United are going to lose. But you don't know what Man United are going to turn up. You don't know what Man United are going to turn up. For league-wise, do I think we'll win the league? ask me where this Arsenal side really are in the next 5 games. Like we've got Man United at the Emirates, and then I think we've got Leeds away. Then we've got like Sunderland at home, Brentford away. I think Tottenham coming up in that mix at White Hart Lane, which will be a difficult place to go to, right? Against
It's
Tottenham.
absolutely not. We can't get a result at home. Let me tell you
Yeah,
that. It's the
I
easiest
don't know
game
if
you've
I can
got.
agree with that. You know,
We're the weakest
I
opponent.
yeah.
Weakest opponent that you've got to play for the rest of the season, and the worst stadium for us to play in. So you'll be absolutely fine, unfortunately.
Yeah, so those next 5 games, if Arsenal get 15 points, then I think we will win the league.
Okay. And how you feeling about Arteta today? Are you still behind him?
Today against Inter Milan, I morely focus on the Man United game, because if we don't win, the lowest we can finish is 3rd, and we finished 3rd in the Champions League group phase, and we got PSV in the Champions League. We got to the semi-final and lost to the best team of last season, PSG. Right? I think we'll draw today. I think I take a point. Depending what the lineup's going to be. If we go strong, I reckon we might nick it 2-1. Inter Milan ain't going to be an easy place to go to. The San Siro will be a hard game.
Arteta's the man, though, isn't he, to back, surely? I know that you've been against him in the past. I assume you're behind him now, and how good you've been this
I'll
year.
be behind him now, but he has to win the league this season to prove to me.
Okay.
Yeah.
That's fair enough. Yeah, that's fair.
Yeah.
Luca, thank you. Louis, coming to you for Forest, a big performance and a big point.
Yeah, I think it's one of those where I think they have got lucky. I mean, in my opinion, it's a penalty. I think Ola Aina has. I think people will say it's a natural movement, but for me personally, if you watch it, it almost seems it's his instinct. It's his instinct to move the ball, move his arm. He's shielding from the player behind, who he evidently doesn't know is a Forest player, in my opinion. And his hand has moved the ball into a favourable position for him. That is a penalty. And that's my concern. But if we move away from that, it was classic Dyche performance. He knew what he was going into, getting into the game. He knew he wanted to sit back, soak up the chances, and Nottingham Forest did that to a T. They did very, very well. They didn't have a shot on target all game, but it's brilliant. Honestly, I think Nottingham Forest played a perfect game. They set up for the draw. They didn't think they could beat Arsenal, maybe get a counter. Maybe they thought they might get a little bit of luck, but unfortunately that didn't swing their way. They capitalised on a draw, and that'll be a point that very, very good for them considering that West Ham won. So, not to worry.
Absolutely that. Thank you very much. Do appreciate it. So 3 games to go. Got to wrap this up. I'm on air on another podcast in about 7 minutes' time. So Wolves Newcastle ended 0-0, and as we got towards the end of the game week, less goals and less action. Cam, kick it off with you. Wolves continue, and I say it every week now, they're fine form in 2026. They're unbeaten in the Premier League and all competitions in 2026, and saying it while it lasts. But they look really good, and a result like this will only increase pressure on Eddie Howe. When I mean, Newcastle have looked a little bit better in the last few weeks, but you know, this is the type of game that Newcastle fans will be looking at and go, "Come on, guys, you've got to be winning this." But for Wolves, great result.
Yeah, it feels like ever since the New Year's began, it feels like Wolves have just become a whole new side because, I mean, they're picking up results like this. I mean, albeit it wasn't 3 points, but I think in this game, I think whilst, you know, the scoreline probably indicates it was a boring game, I think, you know, Wolves probably had their chances to potentially get 3 points in this game, especially at home. But I think for Newcastle and Eddie Howe, I think it's just going to, you know, pile even more pressure on them, in my opinion. I think these are the type of games that, you know, Newcastle should no doubt be getting 3 points in, because I think they're definitely that good enough of a side to be, you know, winning these type of games, and they should be. I mean, I know they've been, you know, I would say luck's not been on their side this season. They've been, you know, hit with injuries, hit with, you know, some problems of their own, but I think Wolves have, they're not great last year. And I know that, you know, they've gotten better in these past few games. Their form's definitely not, you know, too bad, but I think Newcastle have enough quality to definitely be winning this one. And yeah, I'd feel ashamed that, you know, these past few games have not really been doing great. But I think, you know, it's a consistent pattern with Newcastle, because these away games, they've constantly been, you know, pushing in poor performances and, not giving their fans enough, in my opinion. And, I think you could say that for some of their home games as well. I think, they're very inconsistent. I think sometimes they'll have really good games, sometimes they'll, do really poor. I think, Leeds United, I mean, albeit they didn't even get a point out of that game where they lost 4-3, but, Leeds United rocked up there and pretty much, yeah, they rocked up there and done really well, in my opinion. But, I think, Leeds United, they've done quite well this season and, putting a good fight in every game anyway. But, yeah, I think for Wolves, I think it's definitely a good point. I don't think they're going to survive. There's no doubt. I think they're probably going to go down. I think these good performances and, good results for them, I think it's definitely something to be happy about. But I think, if they had Rob Edwards at the start of the season, I think they would definitely be in that position where they can definitely fight to stay up. But I think with how, lackluster and how poor they were at the start of the season, I think it's definitely affected them. And, I think they'll definitely probably break Derby's point record. I think they'll definitely do that if they can, keep this form up. But maybe I think they could finish 18th or 19th if they can definitely put a shift in this season, but I don't think they have enough to stay up. And, I think they're definitely going to be losing some of their key players this summer if they definitely don't stay up. But yeah, I think the result as a whole for them is definitely going to be a good one. They could get 3 points, but I think in this type of game against a side like Newcastle, they'll definitely take it. But for Newcastle, in terms of away form, they haven't been great, and yeah, I'd expect much more from them.
Newcastle struggles away from home continue. Thank you. Louis, just to touch on that, Rob Edwards is doing a great job at Wolves. They look like a completely different side. It's not a case of they're picking up a couple of draws. It's been a good 4 or 5 games now that they've A, looked better and B, got results. I mean, let's be honest with you, it is going to be, unless a miracle happens, too little too late. But it's good to see Wolves playing with a smile on their face and enjoying their football and getting results along the way.
Yeah, of course. I mean, it also gives the fans some hope. Well, you never know. It will be known as the biggest comeback of all time of Premier League history, and probably will be forever if Wolves could end up doing this. And they've got the form, and they're enjoying their football now. The players look more confident. It's also happiness for the fans. They're the ones paying the money to attend the games. There's probably many Wolves fans who've got season tickets, away season tickets. I'm happy for them. No team wants to just see everyone lose games repetitively. It's very painful. I support a club that only won last week. Before that was November the 8th. It's not fun. But they're giving it a good go, and that's what the fans want. That's all the fans pay for, to see their team give a go and have some fight.
That's all they asked for in the end. Thank you very much. It's good to see. Good job Rob Edwards is doing. Villa and Everton then, big surprise here with a win for Everton on the road. Louis, sticking with you, I want to focus on Aston Villa firstly, because Unai Emery after the game said that Aston Villa aren't even top 5 contenders. It's not the first time this season that he's been difficult in the post-match interview. It was after the Arsenal defeat. Do you buy what he's saying? He's saying there that Villa definitely aren't going to get top 5. They're not going to even compete for it. Right now, they sit in a solid 3rd. So it comes as a bit of a surprise to me. But so your thoughts on those comments, but also Villa in this game. They seem to just lack that something. Were missing quite a few players.
They do, and I have to be very quick in this because I had a lot to say about this game, but due to time, I'll be quick. I think that they are in a little bit of spot of bother. I don't think it's an unrealistic thing. The table is very close. They have lost Kamara for the rest of the season. One of the biggest players involved in that Villa squad, the success so far, is out until the end of the year, which will be a big loss. They're going to need some transfer activity. I know they're trying to get a striker in at the moment. There's been links with Mateta today. Tammy Abraham deal, who they were originally going to sign, has got some complex issues with it. And a quick word on the game is, how on earth has James Garner not been sent off? That's what I will say. It is shocking how he didn't receive a second yellow. That push on Rodgers could have been a golden chance for Villa, first of all, to get back into the game for a free kick, which we know Roger loves. And also, how is that not a second yellow? Everton, 3 minutes later, go on to score from an opportunity. So it goes to show how a game can be decided with one action, which I think most would agree with is wrong.
Thank you for your comments there, and thank you for raising that, Louis. And that's the thing, that'll only add, I'm sure, to Emery's frustration with his comments post-match. It'll just make him angrier and feel like he wants to get his point across. Thank you very much. I mean, also, I think selling Dono and Marlin wouldn't have helped in terms of his thinking and what he's saying. I'm sure he's frustrated that he's gone because, like, look at this game. Villa had nothing, did they, off the bench to affect the game? So, Cam, what do you make of this one? But in particular, briefly, Everton, huge win for them. I mean, they're a strange side. I said it so many times, but they're a strange side under David Moyes. They get results away from home at the moment where they're not expected to. They drop points at home where you'd think they'd win. So, but a huge win nonetheless for Everton.
Yeah, I've said this many times on this podcast. Everton are a really weird side. I mean, one game they'll go and win superbly, which is today, or not today, sorry, last weekend. But then they'll go in the next week and lose against a side like perhaps Brentford or Sunderland. I actually think Brentford or Sunderland were, this season are probably better sides. But on paper, you'd probably expect Everton to do much better in those games. But yeah, I think it's definitely a big result for them. Away to Villa. Villa have been really good this season. I mean, they're third in the table. I think, the fact that Everton have gotten this win means for, teams like Arsenal, Manchester City that, it's definitely going to have a big influence and, it's going to be positive on their side because it means that obviously right now as it stands, a title contender, I guess you could say, has dropped points, but I think it's definitely more influential for Arsenal, albeit they got, a point. But yeah, I think a good win for Everton. I think they'll, be very happy with that. They got a clean sheet at the end of the day. 1 goal gap, definitely not, a high goal scoring game. But yeah, I think it'll be a good win for them. Big away win for sure. And yeah, I think Villa at home, I think everyone went into this game kind of expecting Villa to win comfortably. And yeah, they didn't do so. I mean, they've done the complete opposite of that. And yeah, I agree with what Louis was saying. I think, James Garner, how is that not a second year? I mean, I really don't get that. But yeah, they're going to score straight after that. So yeah, I mean, it's football at the end of the day, and the inconsistency with VAR and refs these days, as I said earlier, it's so poor. But yeah, a good win for Everton, and yeah, for Villa, they just couldn't get anything out of this one.
Cam, thank you very much. I echo your thoughts there. Appreciate it. I feel the same. Luca, to ask you about the final game before we end this podcast, we are short for time, but do you think this game was one of two halves, where Bournemouth good in the first half, Brighton really good in the second half, and I mean, also touched on that goal from Brighton because that was spectacular.
I think the goal was very, very, really good on the spectacular goal apart from that. I think it was a game of two halves, in my opinion, because I feel like the Bournemouth game, it could have gone either way. I really wouldn't have actually called a real good winner in this game, and this game had a draw all over it because the thing is, without Semenyo for Bournemouth, Bournemouth for me have got a good manager. Maybe do you honestly think this Bournemouth manager will be the next Pep Guardiola manager?
What do you think?
I don't know. It's very difficult who is going to get the job. If Man City don't win anything this season, then I honestly think maybe he might actually be up there with maybe potentially being. I don't know. He's a good manager, but if Pep leaves Man City, can Man City replace anyone? That's the thing, because I look at Bournemouth, how he's done well. Yes, they haven't got any European football, but since they've lost Semenyo, they've not been the same outfit, to put it that way. And that's why I feel like this game was a battle of two halves. With Brighton, I don't think they're not as good this season as they are. I think Brighton are going to finish maybe like mid-table this season.
Okay, thank you very much. It was a draw in the end. Bournemouth not been able to get the win, so you feel for them at the end, but the point not disastrous. Luca, thank you very much, and a big thank you to my panel tonight. Let's go around and see where you can find you all on social media. Luca, thank you very much for your
No
time.
worries, man.
Supporter, where can people follow you on social media?
Yeah, subscribe to my channel, Luca Talks Ball, of course. Gunners Don's social also is Luca Talks Ball. Subscribe to the channel. I posted a video today, of course. So if anyone wants to check that out, you're more welcome. We're on the road to 9,200 subscribers. And but thank you very much for inviting me on, man.
No worries. Thank you for your time. Appreciate it. Feel free to jump. Thank you, Luca,
Okay,
very
thank you,
much.
thank you.
Cheers. Louis, thank you very much for coming on, West Ham fan for tonight. I mean, for your sake, it's good that it's in better circumstances. Where can people follow you on social media? And thank you for collaborating with me as well about the West Ham and Tottenham game.
All good, all good. Absolutely loved it. Of course, love being on here as always. Can be found on X at Louis Van, 3 N's at the end, and also I'm a writer for westhamfans.org.
Great stuff. Please go check that out, people. Louis does some fantastic work and has fantastic opinions. Says it how it is. Also very balanced and fair. Thank you, Louis. Always a pleasure to have you on. Cam, thank you as well. Great to have you both on as regulars. But Cam, where can people follow you on social media?
Yeah, I'm glad to be back on again, Harry, as always. A regular on here, and you know I love doing that. And it's been great to be on here recently. Yeah, you can find me on my X page, THFC_Cam. It should be in the blue box, but Jimmy Hotspur saying thanks. So yeah, that's all right. But yeah, you can find me on there. I pretty much tweet about Tottenham, tweet about all things football. I'll probably, feel free to follow me. I'll probably interact with you and, talk with you about football, pretty much about anything. But yeah, also considering starting a YouTube channel, which if I do, and if I do post a video or start posting content on there, that'll definitely be in my X link and bio. But yeah, thank you for having me back on here again.
Great stuff, Cam. If you do, all the best with it. You're always welcome here. You know that. I'd love you still on here. Thank you very much to both of you. Thank you to everyone that listened. If you're new, please subscribe. Really appreciate you. Come back on Thursday. Should be 6 p.m. We'll confirm with you for a Game Week 23 preview. We'll be looking ahead to the upcoming games for the weekend. So it should be a good one. Hopefully be joined by at least one, if not both of these two. But thank you very much. Until next time.